Whew. Okay. Spent a few rough days down in it, so I thought it might be time for another one of these check-ins. I'm glad to say I feel back on top of things for the most part, and I hope you're all doing well too. There's a few things I wanted to touch on today, some of which I had to remind myself of. That happens all the time. Even though I know a thing and have tried to apply it to my life, the depression has a way of making you forget that shit. That thing is to remember the progress you have made in your fight. My girlfriend, who has been the most amazing supportive person since I was lucky enough to find myself with her, reminded me how far I've come in the last couple years alone. And as usual, she was completely right. No longer am I sitting alone in that noisy little bachelor apartment with some very dark thoughts in my head and long nights for them to fester. I won't lie to you, friends, a few of those days back then I was really unsure whether I'd stick around. I know in my heart I would never do such a thing, but holy fuck did that voice gain some strength back then. So as I look back at the last couple of years with the support of friends and family, I've come very far indeed. The depression still gets a hand on me sometimes, but it is always in for a good fight now. As I know, I am not expendable or unwanted in this world. It might wrestle me to the ground for a couple days, but by fuck, it loses every time now. So even if you don't feel like you've gotten anywhere, you have. Give yourself credit for that. The second thing is something that can be hard to do, especially in the midst of a rough time. This is reaching out to your friends and family for some help. I am particularly guilty of this, and I am working to change it. Very often if I seem out of contact, it's because I'm working on something and thus being productive and fulfilled, just another absent-minded artist. But sometimes it's because I'm down in it, and I don't want to bother anyone with it. I've always seen the depression as some sort of disease, and I don't want to either bother anyone else with my bullshit or somehow spread it to them. I self-quarantine and just suffer it out alone. Quite often, a loved one will spot it and help me, but I almost always fight back against it saying, I'm fine, don't worry about it. But your friends and family give a shit, and they will listen. If you're in a situation where your family and friends don't really understand what you're going through and aren't much help, I can promise you someone out there does give a shit. Because I give a shit. The trouble is applying that giving of shits to oneself. My girlfriend said that my fight was her fight too, and this was fucking revelatory to me. You're not a burden to others. I'm not. It's okay to message a friend and chat for a few minutes or get together to do something to help pull you out of it. Reach out, even if it's just a little bit. It is hard as fuck to do, but it's doing yourself a favor. The depression will lie to you about this. Don't believe it. A third subject I want to cover is when there are some people in your life that are not good for you. This can be from mildly unsupportive to downright toxic. Sometimes we don't want to give up on people, which is usually a good notion, I know I don't. But there comes a point where you have to say to yourself, this person is fucking bad for my life and they are bad for me. I can count the number of toxic people I've truly had to turn my back on with only a few fingers, and each one was difficult and I devoted a lot of second thoughts to it. But in the end, I was right. You owe it to yourself to airlock toxic people. This is what's best for us sometimes, even though it's the hardest thing to do. Those are all the thoughts I got for right now. See you all again soon. Don't believe the lies depression puts in your head. You're important and you need to look out for yourself. Keep fighting. Talk to you soon.